Would you rather be known as a businessman, a salesman, a motorcycle customizer? Are there one or two words which you prefer as a title to describe your occupation?
To describe my occupation, I would say motorcycle customizer.
According to the pictures on your store walls, your family originates from Oklahoma. Talk about this.
Well, half my family originates from Oklahoma. My dad's side of the family is from Oklahoma, and my mama's side of the family is from Irving, Texas. So Oklahoma has a soft spot in my heart because as kids, well, my brother and I are 11 months apart. I'm 11 months older than my brother. We've been best friends our whole lives. He's a big shot attorney in Houston, and during the summer, our parents would take us to Oklahoma and drop us off for the summer. So we always thought, hey, that's pretty good. Mom and Dad let us spend all summer at Grandma and Grandpa's house. They're getting rid of us for the summer. So we go to Oklahoma once a year to see kin folks and to reminisce. My cousin and I, she's right in between me and Rand. And so she flies from California to Dallas, and she and I get in an old pickup truck and go up Route 66 and go to Oklahoma and spend a few days reminiscing.
You got anything to say about your grandfather and grandmother?
Grandpa's the greatest man I ever knew. He was, he loved me and my brother, and you know, he was the county commissioner for Beckham County, Oklahoma. And he was just a really good man, and he died when I was 21.
Was he a farmer?
He was a farmer for years and years and years, and then he got the job offer with the county, so he sold the farm. I actually have the announcement out there hanging up on the wall where he was selling the farm and all the implements and all the stuff, and he gives a list of stuff he's selling, and it says the ladies from the church will be making lunch, you know, and stuff like that.
Did you ever wind up picking cotton?
No, I never picked any cotton. Baled hay, but never picked any cotton.
Okay, so why did you all land in Irving, Texas? Because of your mom?
Yeah. My grandma was here, my mom was here, and I've never lived outside Irving, Texas, me or my wife.
What did your dad do for a living?
My biological dad was construction, and my dad that raised me is a welder. Okay, so
they're both in the work world, pretty much, construction world.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
What were your hobbies, your interests, and how did you first gain an interest in motorcycles?
You know, my hobbies were always motorcycles. I loved motorcycles. My great aunt and uncle owned a ranch in East Texas, and they had some mini bikes out there, so I started riding mini bikes, and it just never left me. I just loved doing it, and you know, so that was always my hobby, was motorcycles.
Did you learn how to take a motorcycle engine apart and put it back together?
Oh yeah, you know, in the old days you did. I haven't done it in a long time, but in the old days you used to. You had to do whatever you could to keep the bike running.
Right.
I mean, it was, you know, you didn't have any money, and you were 14, you know, so something broke, you had to fix it. Same way with my brother's car. He bought him a car at 16 and kept locking up the motor. We'd rebuild it out in the driveway, try to get it done for Saturday night. Go cruising over on Forest Lane. Speaking of my brother, here's my brother texting me.
Say hi.
Hi. Hi, Rand.
So you know what's inside of a motorcycle?
Yeah.
you have pretty much basic knowledge of it.
Yeah.
You grew up with basic knowledge of it. You got most of your education from the Irving Public Schools.
I got all my education from the Irving Public Schools. That ain't much.
Oh. What was your impression of your schooling?
You know.
You're neutral on the subject.
Well, I enjoyed school. You know, I never applied myself. I wished I would have. You know, my brother was a straight A student. I was lucky to make C's. If I made B's, I was really happy. You know, but school was okay. I mean, I went to school every day. I wasn't one of the kids that skipped school and cut class and all that. I didn't do any of that. I went to school every day, and I came home every afternoon and messed with motorcycles, or, you know, back in before motorcycles, or when we were really young, we played football, baseball, basketball, skateboards, you know, anything we could do, we did all that. Forgot to turn your light on, huh?
Yeah. So you consider yourself not to be the greatest student in the world because you didn't apply yourself.
Right.
You know, well, that's typical, you know.
Well, but I wished I would have. You know, I wished I would have. I wished I would have taken school more seriously. I didn't really. You know, school was, you know, something you had to do till you could get home and get on your motorcycle, you know, or get home and see your buddies or something.
I know all about that.
Yeah, you were there with me.
What did you enjoy? Now, where did you go to high school? MacArthur High School.
You were there.
No, I was there.
You were there. MacArthur High School, 71 to 75.
What did you enjoy best about math?
We had a pretty good jukebox in the lunchroom. You remember when they put the jukebox in? Was that our senior year or junior year?
That was pretty close to the end.
It was close to the end. They put a jukebox. You remember at first they just had the cafeteria, but then they brought in where you could order like hamburgers and stuff. You remember? And then they put the jukebox in there. That was kind of fun.
That was nice.
That was nice.
Then they tore it out again here recently.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't like much about school. I didn't dislike it. This wasn't my favorite thing.
You were there because you had to be.
I was there because they made me. My mama made me go to school.
So did you ever cause trouble?
No.
Okay.
No.
After graduating, what did you do? Did you have any plans? Did you go from one job to the next?
No, my brother went into the service, and right about that time, I went to work for the family business, which was Roach Paint Company, which was a paint supplier. So I went to work. My great uncle that introduced me to motorcycles at 7, 8 years old, he owned the paint company. And it was a Texas-based company called Roach Paint Company. So, and their factory was downtown Dallas in the old Alfred refrigerated warehouse. That was their plant and their corporate offices. So I got right after high school, I got a DUI, and I wrecked my truck, and so his wife, my aunt, picked me up and took me to buy some clothes. Back then, young people, back then, when you went to look for a job, you wore a suit and tie. You didn't wear blue jeans, you wore a suit and tie.
Right.
No matter, I don't care if you're looking for a busboy job. So she went and got me a suit and tie and got a haircut and went over and saw her husband, and she bought me that so I could go looking for a job. And he said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, y'all just bought me a suit of clothes, and I'm going to start looking for a job Monday morning." This was on Friday. He said, "Why don't you come to work for me?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "How you going to get to work? You wrecked your truck." And I said, "I don't know, but I'll figure it out." And he said, he pitched me the keys to an old car, and he said, "This is an old retired company car. Just drive it." And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Do me one more favor." And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Get your haircut before you come to work." And I just got one like 2 hours before. And I looked at his wife, and she looked at me, and I said, "Yes, sir." And I got 2 haircuts in one day.
Okay. Well, that was nice of him to do that.
Absolutely it was. I worked there 20 years.
Well, did you receive any training to be a salesman?
No.
You just started doing it.
Well, I started in the warehouse.
Okay.
And, you know, so there we were pulling orders, you know, so you got this big, huge paint warehouse in downtown Dallas, and you had 30 stores. So every morning you got a big order from each store what paint they needed. And you would pull the paint that they ordered, put it on pallets, band it up, and the truck drivers delivered every day or every couple of days to the stores. And there was like 10 of us guys that pulled orders, so my goal was to be the best of those 10. And I did that and got to be the best of the 10. Then they moved me in the office, so now I'm the guy taking the orders. You know, you work at the Irving store and you need an order, you call, and I'm the guy that's taking the orders, giving it to the guys. And I did that really good, and then they moved me up again, and then they came in and they said, hey, why don't you go to one of the stores and work? And I said, yes, sir. And he said, where would you like to go? I said, well, if there's an opening in Irving, I'd like to go to Irving. That's where I live. He said, there's not an opening in Irving, but next one there is. And a couple of months later, they said we needed a driver in Irving. So I went to be the driver, so now I'm loading paint and delivering it to Fox and Jacobs, or, you know, the paint contractors. Right. So all I did all day long was load and unload the truck and deliver paint. And then I worked my way up from there to inside sales and the assistant manager, the manager, to I made the store the #1 store in the country, which was only 30 stores. Then I went into sales, and I was the #1 sales in the country, which is 30 stores. And then Glidden Paint bought us out, and then all of a sudden we're thousands of stores. So I went from store number 4, that was the number of the store was 4, to when Glidden bought us, I was store 836.
Ooh. Well, I remember Roach. Did your uncle become a multimillionaire all of a sudden?
No, not all of a sudden. He built his business. When he bought it, Roach Paint, it was one little store on McKinney Avenue, and he built the business. And he was on McKinney Avenue, had that one little paint store, and 2 guys moved in next door to him, and they were going to build homes. And they got to be buddies, and they said, okay, you know, we'll build homes, and you'll supply us paint for the homes. And, you know, they had these big dreams and all that. And turns out those 2 guys were Fox and Jacobs, which
I've heard of them.
The young people don't know. Fox and Jacobs, when we were young, was huge.
Yes.
They built a really big business, so as Fox and Jacobs grew, the Roach Paint grew.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, Fox and Jacobs got bought out years ago by Syntex Homes. So we sold a lot of paint to Fox and Jacobs.
So then Glidden became the owners?
Glidden became the owners, and I worked my way up to the #1 sales rep in the country for Glidden, which was up with thousands of people. And after 20 years, I had 12 years with Roach Paint and 8 years with Glidden, 20 years total. After 20 years, I retired to open Strokers Dallas.
Now, in the meantime, you got married.
Yeah, I've actually got married. I don't even know if you know this story. I got married right after high school to Susan Bessler.
Right.
We were married only a couple of years and divorced because her mother didn't think I was good enough for her daughter.
Oh.
Her mom was a big shot at Mary Kay, and I was just some long-haired guy working at the paint store riding motorcycles.
You sure you want to say that?
It's true. It's true. Her mother knows. And and me and her mother are great now. But, you know, nobody's good enough for your kids.
No.
You know, my daughter's married, and the guy she's married to is a great guy. He ain't good enough for my daughter, though. So we got divorced, and a few years later, I married a girl for 17 years, and Susan married a guy for 16, 17 years. And we both got a divorce within 6 months of each other. And her friend called me one day and said, hey, And I would still see Susan about once a year. She'd come into the paint store and get some paint, or I'd see her at, her kids and my kids went to school together. So at like open house, I would see her, and we would always say, hey, how you doing? And I'd hug her, and we were friends. And so her friend called me one day and mentioned that Susan was going through a divorce, or had just gotten divorced. And I said, well, I'm going through a divorce. And her friend said, well, you ought to call her. So I called her and asked her if she wanted to go to lunch, and she did. And next thing you know, we're remarried again, and that was 20 years ago.
Wow.
So we've been together, it's actually 19 years.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, so I introduced her one time when we first got remarried again. I said, this is my first and third wife, and she said, no, I'm your first and last wife.
Yeah. I remember she said that about her first and last husband.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, that's nice. That turned out, that's unusual,
It's meant to be.
Now, how did you figure out, before you opened this Strokers, how did you figure out that there was a market out there for what you had to sell?
Because I was that guy. I was the guy that was in the market. I was the guy that was, riding custom Harleys and looking for custom parts and looking for, services for custom motorcycles. And I just thought, what, it would be cool to have a custom shop, and you didn't just work on plain Jane Harleys, it was truly a custom shop. The Harley shops, they're like Frank Parr Chevrolet. They're gonna work on your Chevrolet, and if you want a K&N breather, they'll put that on there. If you want some custom work, guess what? Frank Parr ain't doing it. You got to go to Harry's Hot Rod shop, so I wanted there to be a cool custom shop that did cool stuff, and there wasn't one. So, and I wanted the beer joint next door to get people to come in and drink a couple of beers and eat a hamburger and hang out, listen to music, and have kind of a gathering spot for motorcycle enthusiasts.
Yeah. And when they're waiting on their bike that's being worked on.
Yeah.